Yeet! Keep! The newest pillar of the modern format, Whirza decks are finely tuned, efficient combo machines, but they are also capable of grinding with the best thrillers in the format. With the hint of a prison element to boot, the new archetype looks to be here to stay. Versus a mainstay as old as the format itself, the premier control deck available, Blue-White has always been and always will be a viable strategy, as it simply has answers to everything the format can throw at it. Throw in a ridiculous suite of planeswalkers, maybe a freshly unbanned mystic, and you have a recipe for success. Welcome to Modern Matchup Analysis, Four Color Whirza versus Blue-White Control. Hey everyone, I'm Danny here at Snap Mulligan. So what's a Modern Matchup Analysis? Well, simple. I believe knowing your deck is only half the battle in Magic. That's why I'm starting the series where we're doing deep dives into both sides of popular matchups in Modern. We'll look at deck techs, metagame breakdowns, threat assessments, sideboard guides, and some gameplay. Whatever side you're on, I want you to feel completely comfortable navigating this matchup. Now, metagames are always evolving, Throne of Eldraine is here, so I want your help. Leave comments below for anything I may miss or you feel isn't entirely correct. And let me know what sweet Eldraine cards we'll be revisiting in Volume 2 once the data is available. Now, if that isn't quite enough for you to give this new guy a chance, you're in luck because I am not above bribery. That's right, free stuff. I'll be giving away each of the 4 new Commander 2019 Precons as a thank you for giving me a chance. So stick to the end and I'll tell you how to enter. And guess what? This is a new video on a new channel and it's probably only gonna get like 4 views. So your chances are probably gonna be really great. But most importantly, I just hope you enjoy the video. So what are we gonna go over in these videos? First, we'll do a quick deck tech for each deck. Next, we will dive into the numbers of last month's metagame. I'll then go over my pregame ritual to get into the right mindset to play a game. Then, the fun stuff. We'll watch some matches, with maybe a pun or two. Then, we'll dig into each side's game plan for the other, including sideboards. Finally, we'll take a look at some interesting lines of play you might want to keep in mind. Alright, now based on metagame data, this is what a typical blue-white controlled deck list looks like these days. I removed all blue-white Stoneblade variants while compiling the data, so keep that in mind. The Mystic variants are built very differently. For now, we're focusing on classic control. This deck is built on having answers for everything and always being ahead in card advantage. Let's start with the counterspell suite, as the permission cards are usually the most intimidating part of playing with or against blue-white control. Cryptic Command does a little bit of everything at all points in the game. When ahead on board, a simple counter draw is exactly what you want. When behind, tapping down an opponent's board buys you time, and bouncing any permanent at any time is almost always useful. The fact that you can choose any 2 for any situation makes it one of the most versatile cards in the format. Force of Negation is an instant all-star for Modern Horizons. No, it doesn't hit creatures, but exiling the spell is so relevant in this modern format. Maybe not as powerful as Force of Will, but hardcasting it for 3 happens a lot in the late game also. After that, it's dealer's choice for about 5 slots for the other counters. Mana Leak is still seeing play, Spell Snare is gaining popularity, with Stoneforge Mystic and Whirza decks being popular, and Logic Knot used to see more play but is still very good and needs to be accounted for. As for other answers, Supreme Verdict is still the most common board wipe of choice, and Blue-White Control often runs a Detention Sphere as a catch-all. Timely Reinforcements is just fantastic at buying a few turns with chump blockers and gaining some life. Path to Exile, still the best creature answer in the format in my opinion. 1 mana unconditional removal is a beautiful thing. Oust has also been seeing some play, and it combos nicely with Field of Ruin since you can force them to shuffle it away. The main reason to play the deck is because you get access to the best 2-drop creature ever printed. Snapcaster is card advantage and a win condition all built into one. As the game goes on, you use more answers, Snappy essentially becomes a graveyard tutor on a beat stick. Planeswalker Suite is pretty insane also. Jace the Mind Sculptor, one of the most powerful cards of all time. Teferi shines in the mirror, removes permanents, draws cards. Narset digs you 8 deep, pulling the best 2 options, while being her own kind of annoying if your opponent's trying to draw cards. And then there's Big Teferi, pluses to draw cards, free up lands, minuses to remove permanents, and wins the game eventually. All brilliant cards in this deck. All decks are running Ops over Serum Visions these days, instant speed is everything, and then a flex spot usually goes to click a lot of the time. As for the land base, 4 Flooded Strands to go get Hallowed Fountains. Glacial Fortresses are usually just Tundras in the deck. Celestial Colonnades are one of the few win conditions we have in the deck aside from Snapcaster Beats or a Planeswalker Ultimate, and the best part is it doesn't take up an actual slot in the deck, just a land. The 4 Field of Ruins are a real luxury to be able to play in the main. They're great against a wide range of decks, hitting Tron lands, Blink Moths, Raging Ravines, Valakuts, etc. And then there's basics, 6 islands and 2 plains. For the sideboard, we have some situational counterspells. Ceremonious Rejection hits Eldrazi and Tron threats. Disdainful Stroke is also great in those matchups, and also hits other big mana spells, including Urza. Dovin's Veto is just an all-around great counterspell, but really shines in the mirror especially. We have Rest in Pieces and Surgicals to deal with graveyard shenanigans, Surgical being especially potent with Snapcaster, even in this post-Hogak world. Stony Silence does some serious work against Whirza decks, Affinity, and Tron. Celestial Purge and Disenchant for some situational removal. Then we have Monastery Mentor, which is great in grindy matchups and for when you expect them to take out their creature removal. And Timely Reinforcements is a backbreaker against Burn in particular. Now, you may have heard the fantastic news that everyone's favorite Core Artificer has been freed in Modern. And guess what? Blue-white control builds are a beautiful home for Stoneforge Mystic. We'll get into the differences in more detail during the metagame analysis, but for now, here's the general idea of what changes from pure blue-white control to make it a blue-white Stoneblade deck. Obviously, Stoneforge Mystic and her best friend Mr. Batterskull are in, but what may surprise those who are used to Legacy is that Sword of Feast and Famine, not Fire and Ice, has been the clear winning sword in Modern. Vendilion Click is also very popular in these Stoneblade lists as it carries equipment very well as a backup plan. To make room, the most common cuts from pure blue-white control include Supreme Verdicts, Big Teferi, Detention Spheres, and main deck Timelies, and also a smattering of others depending on the meta. Alright, let's look at some cold hard data. Thanks to MTG Goldfish and MTGTop8.com, I took all published top finishes from the month of September and analyzed every deck. So, let's start by looking at which variants blue-white players chose this month. Now, looking at 92 decks, blue-white Stoneblade made up 2/3 of them, while traditional blue-white was only a third. Now, this is most likely due to being the first month Stoneforge Mystic was free, so we were definitely expecting to see a lot of people trying it. Now, let's see what the average blue-white Stoneblade deck looks like these days. You'll see the count of how many of the 59 decks that the card appears in, and the average number next to it shows how many copies the average deck runs if it includes that card at all. A few things to note: Spell Snare is in almost every deck, and it's a perfect one-drop on either side of a Stoneforge Mystic, either turn 1 or turn 3 when you hit your third mana and are holding up a Stoneforge activation. It was a little sad to see the lack of Geist of St. Traps, but that's just because I love that card. Now let's take a look at what people are running in the sideboard. No real strong consensus here yet outside of Timelies and Purges. Worth noting, Stonies are much lower here than in blue-white builds because of the equip costs. Now, by comparison, the 33 traditional blue-white control builds are much more streamlined as it's been finely tuned for a long time now. Worth noting here, Serum Visions has almost completely fallen out of favor, only showing up in 9% of decks while opposite 97%. Also, if you're scratching your head about why Islands and Plains only appear in 76% of the decks, it's just because some people are running Snow Covereds, which are technically different cards, so it makes the data look a little funny. Now, I also put this list together to highlight the biggest differences between the two builds. Obviously, the Stoneforge package is the biggest difference, but Vendilion Click also appears much more frequently in the Stoneblade list. Traditional blue-white control runs more board wipes, which makes sense, and relies on Detention Sphere more than Stoneblade. Main deck Timelies are very popular in traditional control, and Narset and Teferi have a home in traditional builds as well, but they're left out in Stoneblade variants. Sideboard-wise, Stoneblade places the board wipes in the board and run more disenchants, while on the other side, Dovin's Veto gets the nod in traditional control builds. Alright, so we're piloting Grixis Urza with a splash for green, but if you're new to the deck, the main engine is Thopter, Foundry, Sword of the Make. With both in play, you pay 1, sack the Sword of the Foundry, you gain a life, and get a Thopter. That Thopter then triggers a sword, comes back attached. So for every 1 mana you have, you get 1 life and 1 Thopter. A fine combo that's actually pretty difficult for a lot of decks to deal with as it is, but why this deck has jumped to tier 1 status is because of Modern Horizons. First, Urza makes this combo go infinite. Urza taps the sword for 1 mana to activate the Foundry, sacrifices the sword, Thopter made, sword comes back untapped. So that's 2 fresh artifacts to make 2 more mana. Repeat this and you'll have infinite life, Thopters, and mana. Then with the infinite mana, you can activate Urza's 5 ability until you play your whole deck. A lot of decks will play a win condition like Europe or Aether Grid. That way you don't have to pass the turn over while your Thopters are summoning sick. Oh, and for fun, you also get a huge construct for free with Urza. Because he wasn't good enough already. Just a crazy good card. So how do we get this combo consistently? First and foremost, we're churning through our deck with cantrippy artifacts. Mishra's Bauble is a delayed redraw that gives us some info. Arkham's Astrolabe both fixes our mana and redraws. Chromatic Star is a free roll, and then there's Ichor Wellspring. We can also directly tutor with Whir of Invention and Goblin Engineer. Whirring at instant speed is amazing for finding either combo piece or as a toolbox tutor. Engineer can get a combo piece in the yard early, but where it really shines is in the late game for grinding matchups. Once you start sacrificing Ichor Wellsprings for Astrolabes, and then next turn sacrifice the Astrolabe for a Wellspring, every turn that's just hard for a lot of decks to keep up with. For the toolbox side of things, an Ensnaring Bridge is really nice to have to stay alive for a few turns. Now, we're not really a prison deck, but this is a great card to have at our disposal if we need it. Whirring for a Pithing Needle is often just a counterspell with a Planeswalker or other target on the stack. Then there's Damping Sphere, Nihil Spellbomb, Pirate Spellbomb, and Welding Jar. Other things that are really nice to have at our disposal if we have a Whir in hand. All these builds run 4 Mox Opals because it's one of the most powerful cards in Modern, and most are now running 2 Galvanic Blasts to round out the Metalcraft suite. The land base doesn't actually vary all that much in terms of the lands themselves. We're looking at 8 fetches, 3 shocks, a lot of snow basics for the Astrolabes, and then Inventor's Fair and Spire of Industry are pretty common. Where people do have differences is actually in the count of the lands. I see a lot of decks running 18 or 19, which is very low. Because we cantrip so much, I do get it, and there are hands where that's enough and it feels really, really good. But I feel like I lose a lot of games being stuck with an Urza or a Whir in hand and not hitting that 4th land drop. I really like 20. Okay, to the sideboard. We've got 2 Fatal Pushes for early aggro and other troublesome creatures like Collector Oofs and Katakis, Thoughtseizes for other combo decks and for sniping hate cards, Assassin's Trophy for pretty much everything, Collector Brutality is a megastar against burn and is extra discard for control matchups, Tireless Tracker is a new addition showing great results against opponents trying to get the game to go long and grindy, Tezzeret, another great win condition for when they disrupt our combo, Ashiok has really been overperforming. He shines in the mirror, cutting off Whirs, Engineers, and Fetches, while also nuking the yard a few times. It's fantastic against Scapeshift and Titan decks, and really does a number on other graveyard decks in the format also. Grafdigger's Cage, because Allosaurus combo and Dredge are still a thing. And just remember that Cage is kind of useless against Living End. Those creatures go to exile first. And Dead of Winter is one of the best board wipes in the format in this deck, but we'll get into more sideboard strategies after the game. Let's see what the best Whirza pilots were playing this past month. I decided to break the deck down into 3 distinct variants. Traditional builds, meaning no Karn or Stoneforge Mystics, Karn builds, and Stoneforge builds. You see the traditional builds are by far the most prevalent at 79% of the published lists. Karn builds were at 13%, and Stoneforge builds were at 9%. Honestly, I think the Stoneforge builds are interesting, but it doesn't surprise me that they aren't more represented. The traditional builds are just very finely tuned at this point. Karn builds, on the other hand, I think are a little bit more real, but they are very meta dependent. These tend to shine when there are a lot of mirror matches in the meta and other artifact based decks. Next, let's take a look at what the Grixis core of the deck looks like. That is, removing the green and white cards. You'll see it remarkably stable at the top with 4 copies and 100% representation for a lot of the core cards. I have heard some players chatter that you only really need 3 Thopter Foundries, and that just felt so very wrong to me. I'm really glad to see that the data is backing up the assumption that most winning decks are playing 4. The Engineer count seems low, it's just because many Karn and Stoneforge Mystic builds drop him, but I couldn't find a nice clean way to represent this. Just know that the Engineer is also close to 100% in the traditional builds. The core sideboard does vary a little bit, but most believe Tezzeret, Thoughtseize, and Brutalities are in there, and pushes deserve to be in, and I completely agree with that. Note that if you're expecting Burn, Battle at the Bridge is a nice meta call, as is Torpor Orb if you're expecting a lot of humans and Titan heavy metas. Now, aside from the Rogue, Karn, or Stoneforge deck seeing success, the real topic of discussion with this deck should be 4 color green versus 4 color white. Maybe 5 color if you're really adventurous, but the mana base is kind of tricky for that. The data backs this up too, and these are the 2 premier strategies for Whirza decks. So, these tables here show exactly what the debate is over. And it's actually very, very simple. Do you want Assassin's Trophy, or do you want Little Teferi? And there is no right answer, and that just depends on your meta. If you expect a lot of blue-white variants, Teferi is an absolute rock star in the main board. Everything else, I love the green build myself. Assassin's Trophy is just everything you want it to be, and I have also fallen in love with Tireless Tracker, especially in blue-white matchups. This may be an oversimplification, but as you can see, people aren't really experimenting with a whole lot of other cards in these colors. By a huge margin, it's all about Trophy and Teferi. I find a lot of Magic players neglect this step, but for me, getting into the right mindset to play a game of Magic is crucial to playing optimally. So before every match, I quickly recalibrate and try to make sure these 4 things are always at the front of my mind. 1. I'm spending my rare free time playing the best game ever made. Enjoy it. 2. I will actively focus on learning while playing. No mindless reps. 3. Never let wins and losses be your only metric for success. Value tight play and improvement. Be process-oriented. And 4. A real person who has their own unique struggles in life is sitting across from you. Above all, be kind. This step might seem silly to you, but I encourage you to at least try it out before you draw your next hand. On the rare day I find myself not having fun playing Magic, it's always because I lost sight of one of these. Okay, that was a lot of prep work, but let's get our hands dirty. Time for some games. Alright, hello everyone. We are here playing some Grixis Whirza. Splashing for green. And this hand is pretty fine. Not a fast hand by any means, but we are on the play, which is nice. So we're going to keep it. A turn 1 discard spell does ruin our day quite a bit, but we will cross that bridge if we come to it. We're definitely not shipping this hand. Leave up Scalding Tarn. Make him not really sure what we're doing. Flooded Strand passes. Oh, we will go get a Steam Vents. Intapped our turn. Well, if they have the spell snare, they have the spell snare. If this is indeed blue-white control, we are not sitting back. We have to make them have it. Okay, force negation. It is blue-white, pitching Snapcaster Mage. All right, that is what blue-white control needs to do. That is exactly the right play. Cracks Flooded Strand. Hallowed Fountain tapped. All right, that puts us on the back foot quite a bit here in this matchup. The good thing is this Aethergr is actually deceptively good in this matchup. So if we can resolve this, it's actually pretty good. All right, they knew that was pretty good too. Okay, well, there goes the mana leak. Now we just pray that Whirza sticks here. 4 cards in hand for our opponent. Field of Ruin. Teferi. That is fine. We are not worried about Teferi. Because that means Whirza is sticking this turn, which is nice. With backup Whirza. Okay, we're in business. Get a island. Whirza down. And we will play out our spell bomb. Pass the turn. Okay, they got to deal with this now. If they have Verdict, okay, bounces construct, sure. Castle Ardenvale, Wall of Omens. Oh, interesting. Okay. Glad to see Wall of Omens back. Love that card. All right, opponent is tapping out. Sure. We will get a land. We'll make it a... Yeah, doesn't matter. Mountain's good. Well, we're doing the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to make them have it. Play an Astrolabe. Scalding Tarn. And now we can even whir for 1 if we have to. Well, we'll pass the turn. They're down to 3 cards in hand. Ticks up to Fairy. Cracks Flooded Strand. Detention Sphere. Okay, that is annoying. Sure. Well, we will tap our artifacts. Okay. Okay, now we're going to want to crack this Spell Bomb. Because now we need to get back ahead on cards here. Mox Opal's not great. Ugh, Scalding Tarn. That is not what we wanted to see. Well, oh, we just needed something there. Okay. So the question is, do we go Opal, try to whir now? Yeah, whir's not getting any better, so I think we do that actually. You know, play the Opal. We'll see if we can get cute and get them to block here. I think they have to. All right, blocks are in. Oh, right, Teferi. Yeah. Well, we gave that away. Okay, no problem. Maybe that was just better. Anyway, we're still going to try to get down with her tapped out. Yeah, we will get our Thopter Foundry. All right, we messed that up a little bit. Opponent is nice enough to remind us that Teferi is in play. We do have our Foundry down, which is nice. We are going to need some help, though, for sure. All right, Jace down. Sure. Gonna get lots of cards back. No shuffle away, which is nice, unless he draws one here. And passes. Well, we will get rid of our Opal. We will get rid of our Astrolabe. And there's the Engineer. Okay, we're in business. That was a beautiful draw. So, first we will... No Cryptic up, so... Oh, right. So we're not quite in business. This is good, though. They do have to deal with this. Yep, we will get our Sword of the Meek. We will go to combat. We will attack Jace, attack Jace, attack Jace. All right, so there was a thought to keeping the Astrolabe back, but if we didn't draw anything, having 2 Thopters in play is much better. All right, he gets another spin with Jace, which is unfortunate. Now, Teferi's probably going to bounce the Construct here. All right, gets to shuffle away all of his nonsense. The reason we kept the Scalding Tarn in play was for this Gaia Reach Sanitarium. That way, if you're empty-handed, you don't just discard whatever you drew. Okay, well, there's no way we're resolving this again, and we can get it back with our Engineer, so we are going to sack it to itself. Yeah, and we will get back a Sword of the Meek. Flooded Strand cracks. The board wipe would do it. Board wipe is going to be rough. Does he have it? Looks like it. Yep. Well done, opponent. Well done. All right. That's unfortunate. This is exactly where blue-white wants to be, and now we're forced to rip this off and pray. So we will try it. Of course he does. Yep. All the answers, and now we don't come back from this because Jace is just too good. Well, we did what we had to do. Now I think our best draw is just Whirza, actually. There's really no way back from this, though. He just had the exact thing he needed. He had the verdict exactly when he needed it. Good job, blue-white. 2 cards in hand, which are most certainly answers. And we draw a breeding pool. Well, we'll play it. Pass the turn. And this is exactly where blue-white wants to be. Sure, get a land. They just keep shuffling away all their Jace draws, so they're just drawing 3 cards a turn, essentially. Or getting a look at them, at least. Yep, this is what blue-white loves to do. Sit around and draw cards. Draw answers. Yep, Narset, sure. Gets an opt. So what we're going to do here, I know it's not the best way to do it, but it is a construct of MTGO that you got to utilize. We're just going to pass the turn and make them play it out. Because this matchup does take a lot of time. Gaia Reach, sure. Alright, that sticks for the moment. Probably not for long, though. We will get a Ichor Wellspring. Pass the turn. And we'll make them finish it out. Add the path. Sure. Colonnade reveals a verdict. Sure. Yeah, they just had everything going on. They had the Force Negation on turn 2, which is exactly what they had to have. And then they took out Aether Grid. I mean, they really did just have everything they needed. It was a perfect game for blue-white. Passes a turn. Yep, now we're just locked, but we'll make them do it. So the only way out of this is... we can't actually, because we can't even word instant speed because of Teferi. So there really is just, we're just never drawing a card again this game. Yep, sure. This is the boring part. Sorry, folks, but this is what blue-white does. If you want to play blue-white, prepare to be bored a lot. Sure. Colonnade beats. Getting in. Two more turns of this. Yep. Gaia reaches, makes us discard. Snapcaster for extra beats. All right, now if we can take game 2 here and actually have it dirt a little bit, this we might be in good shape clockwise. Not a great way to win, obviously, but you do always want to take that into account. All right, so for blue-white, we're bringing in all of our discard spells, our Tezzerets, our Assassin's Trophies, for the Stonies and the Rest in Pieces. Pushes and I don't like bringing in pushes. Trackers are definitely in for the card draw. Cage is just okay. It does help with Snapcasters, but I don't think it's worth a slot. So we're keeping everything dirtily, taking out the Damping Sphere, taking out the Pyrite Spellbomb. Nihil is okay. Welding Jar does nothing. Keeping all the card draw. Take out the Opals. We do not want to see those on the top of our deck late game. And we're in no rush. We just want to hit our 2-drop Thopter Foundry. And 3 more. Bridge, they'll just eventually bounce. Grid is good. Go down a Galvanic Blast. And we'll go down 1 Bauble. Alright, try it like that. Okay, this hand is fine. We're definitely going to keep it. We really did want that 2-drop Thopter Foundry. That's kind of the key to the game. But we will keep. Brutality will pave the way a little bit. So we'll start with an Astrolabe. Maybe we can draw into it still. Steam Vents. Okay. Lands are good. No issues there. Colonnade. Okay, well, we are going to get this Engineer in ahead of the Spell Snare. Or do we... Question is, do we do that or do we Brutality now and try to clear out a Surgical? You know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to just go get a Ichor Wellspring. And if they really want to go ham and waste whatever bullets they have on that, I think that's fine. But right now, just having the Astrolabe Wellspring set up is a really big deal. And if that can stick, we're in business. Does he have the path? Okay, we're going to get some work here. Ooh, and that's a very good draw. Okay, so what we're going to do is play our land. Start engineering. Let's see, make sure we do the right colors here. Sacrifice the Astrolabe. And we're just getting our card draw on. And that's a great draw. So we will do this the mana efficient way. We will make them discard. Yeah, and if they're going to mana leak on that, we are totally good. Okay, now they're going to have to draw a path here or else this engineer gets out of control. We get 2 more cards next turn. Castle Arvindale. Okay, well, we can play this game all day. This is actually pretty fun. So we will get back the Astrolabe, sack the Wellspring, Tezzeret, and another card off the Astrolabe. Spellbomb. Also good. And now we're just drawing a million cards, which is awesome. So the question is, how do we want to do this? Let's get down a Chromatic Star. We'll crack the star, the Thoughtseize, and clear the way for next turn. Another Engineer is nice. So we will, actually we just want to do that. Let's Thoughtseize them away first. Yeah, this was a very good start. All right, Snapcaster, Disdainful Stroke, Cryptic. All right, well, they got all the answers in hand. Maybe we just take Narset. Yeah, let's do that because we want to keep drawing lots of cards. That way, now we can hold up this Nihil Spellbomb for their Snapcaster, and now we're in really good shape. They obviously can get rid of some of our threats here coming up. They've got counter spells for days. Field of Ruin, which is why we don't want to play our breeding pools yet. All right, so they're holding up. They don't have Cryptic mana, so that is worth noting. Disdainful Stroke does get rid of Whirza, so let's just keep drawing some cards. Ichor Wellspring, draw. More card draw. So I say we force them to use their Force of Negation on this Aether Grid. See if they bite. Yeah, they do have to. They know that. Okay. Spellbomb has been a very good idea here. Island. Passing. Oh, we will continue to draw a billion cards. Astrolabe down. Okay, so let's play a mountain. They do have Cryptic mana up now, so I think instead of doing anything crazy, we're just going to keep drawing cards. Yep. Let's play Chromatic Star. Let's crack Chromatic Star. Let's do it right. Get a red. Pithing Needle. We'll try to bait out a counterspell with the Engineer. Yep, if they're wasting Cryptics on that, we are totally fine. And we still have a full grip of 7 cards, folks. This is where we want to be. And they are down to 5 cards, and some 4 cards, Disdainful Stroke and Snapcaster. Snapcaster is not particularly good. Ooh, and Tireless Tracker is wonderful. So let's keep doing our thing here. Wellspring back, Whirza. Land for turn. Get an island. We will play our... Oh, actually, you know what? Now we're just going to... Let's bait out another counterspell with an Whirza. Field of Ruin, sure. Disdainful Stroke, yeah. Pithing Needle on what? That's the question. I think just Jace. Mystic Sanctuary. Sure. Gets back a Cryptic. Okay. Well, we'll name Colonnade and pass the turn. It might have just been better to name Jace, but we have Assassin's Trophies. All right, so we know about Cryptic and Snapcaster in hand. Sure. All right, folks. Well, let's keep doing our thing. Astrolabe. Ichor Wellspring. Draw a trillion cards. Okay, so I think we bait them out with a Tireless Tracker. Green. 1, 2. Oh, 3. Yep. Right. That's how it works. Sure. Cryptic. Now we will try to get down a Thopter Foundry. Sticks, which is great. We do have a land to play. Yeah. I like that. Good turn. Good turn. Alright, that is slightly annoying. We do have the answer, though. Watery Grave. Oh, I just blew it. Well, that was dumb. But I think we're still okay. Yes, pay the 2 life. Oh, man, that was really bad. Well, we will get a Thopter. Land. Alright, 2 cards in hand. One's a Snapcaster. Alright, we punted that a little bit. Whirza very good. So let's start with drawing. Alright, there we go. Not punished. Getting in. Okay, so I think what we do is 1, 2, 3, 4. We try to bait him with an Whirza. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cracks it. Snapcaster. Sure. Okay, in response, we will then crack. Get a breeding pool. Pay the life. Destroy the Stony Silence. And pass the turn. Big Teferi. Okay, that's mildly annoying. In that case, we will sacrifice it to itself. Yep. Be able to kill Teferi this way and get it back with the Engineer. Getting in for 2. Sure. Last card. Alright, kills our breeding pool. Sure. Land into play. Pass the turn. Tireless Tracker is very good. So we will go to combat. Attack Teferi. Attack Teferi. Play a Sword of the Meek. Get back our Thopter Foundry. Draw some cards in the process. Bauble. And they scoop it up. Alright, that was exactly how this wanted to go. Getting that Wellspring in the yard on turn 2 was huge. So I think we're going to keep everything we were doing here. And we had a full grip. I mean, that's drawing 3 extra cards a turn cycle is... it's a lot for blue-white to deal with. Small punt, getting the wrong land at the wrong time, but that'll happen. Okay, we're going to keep this. Discard spell is good. Island. Passing. Well, we will try to get that Spell Snare out of their hand. The old Death Shadow start down to 15. Opt. Narset. Jace. Disdainful Stroke. Maybe we just take Opt. Nah, that's probably too cute. We'll take Narset. Try to deal with Jace on our own. By that time, we should have something going. Alright, opponent opts. Pass a turn. Island. Passing. Alright, well, we are trying it. We are going for the Foundry this time. Yeah, we're just trying to win here. ASAP with the combo. Ooh, stuck on lands? That is good news for us. Okay. Even with the opt. That is very unfortunate for our opponent. Okay, well, we will get down our sword. And do we just bring it back now? I don't think so. Maybe we'll wait. Wow. Opponent just missing land drops and did not win a part. Well, that was an unfortunate ending because those were 2 very good games at the start. Okay. Good game, blue-white. Good game, opponent. I'll catch you later. All right. We are back with some Grixis Whirza. This hand's okay. Not great. We'll probably just end up cycling the Spell Bomb, but I think we got to keep it. Lands and spells and a combo piece. Hallowed Fountain. Tapped. Alright, what version of control do we got? Pithing Needle will be good eventually, actually. So we will get down a Spell Bomb, get down an Opal, pass the turn. Alright, getting down a quick Foundry is really kind of huge here. So we're going to force them to have an answer. Island down. Okay. Crack it. We're going to get a Watery Grave. Untapped. Try to throw it down. Let's see if they got the answer. Spell Snare. Yep. Okay. That's fair. You got to make them have it. The best way we can win this game is to get our Foundries down and just waiting until they do what they do is not a winning game plan because they're just going to have infinite counter spells. So I hope this is like a Teferi here. or Narset, okay. Sure. Gets a mana leak. Well, this is good. We are going to be able to resolve, assuming there's no force negation. Yep. Cast a bauble. Land. We're not going to waste our needle on Narset quite yet. Black and blue. See if they got the force. They do not. All right, we're in business. Okay. So I think what we're going to do here is crack the bauble on our turn. Look what we got going on. Opal we do not want, so we will fetch it away. Go get a Steam Vents. And pass the turn. Get a redraw. And there's the sword. Okay. Now they need the force. There was an option of Galvanic Blasting Narset there, but I really want to save it for once they Jace Brainstorm. So we've got 2 Answers to Planeswalkers in hand. They do have a mana leak we need to be aware of. Gaia Reach, sure. We'll be drawing some cards that way. It's a nice little combo. This might actually mean that we need to blow up Narset. So I think if they try it here, we blow up Narset in response. They're not even activating Narset? Wow, okay. They didn't even activate. I guess they were thinking the spell bomb. Well, we're just going to start making some Thopters. This is where we want to be against blue-white. Steam Vents, sure. Do we just blow up Narset now? I guess we can't blow up now, but I think what we do is we're going to sacrifice spell bomb to draw a card. Oh, duh. Oh, stupid Narset. Sure. Yep. All right, punt on our part. Hate that card. Very dumb. This is what happens if you get playing late. Okay, well, we know they have the mana leak, which is fine. Play Sword of the Meek. They do mana leak it, sure. Nope, we will not pay. We'll get in at Narset. We will... Yeah, we messed this up a little bit. And we'll pass the turn. Tension Sphere. That is annoying. Okay, sure. Yep. That was a brutal punt on our part. It's going to really bite us now, I think. All right, well, play the land. Go to combat. Yeah, we were set up pretty good until I kind of lost sight of what was happening. Play a bridge just to get an artifact out. Use our mana correctly. Passing with lots of mana open. Sure. Well, this is where we don't want to be. So I think what we do now is just Needle, see if we can bait out a counterspell. We do. Okay. Wow, we might have gotten lucky there. That was not a good call by our opponent. Unless they have another force. Okay. Well, we're back in it. We are back in it. Punt on my part, punt on our opponent's part. Not the cleanest game, but sometimes that's what these come down to, is just who punts the least. All right, he's digging. Ooh. All right, we're down. Well, we're saying goodbye to this Ensnaring Bridge because we just want to start making Thopters and Thopters and Thopters. All right, back in business. D-Sphere does nothing, so we'll keep it for the Gaia Reach. Okay. Let's see if we can come back from that horrible punt. Let's see if we can do it. So a cute trick that can happen in these matchups is if they have a bounce spell that can bounce their own Detention Sphere, like is what's going to happen here. And then they're going to get their Thopter Foundry. They're going to be able to get both Thopter Foundries here. That is annoying. Okay, sure. Oh, wow. Okay. Well then, we'll just make some Thopters. There is a thought to maybe sacking it to itself to get it in the yard and recur it somehow, but I think right now we're okay trying to bait out more spells. Yeah, I would have thought... Oh, I guess he doesn't have the mana. Okay, that makes sense. If he would have had 6 mana, then he could have done it. Scalding Tarn. Well, he did. He could have just dealt with him permanently. Maybe he's got a Force Negation and he's hoping to just get rid of it forever. Ooh, okay, there's Whirza. So, I think before we do anything, we try to get in. Go 1 to Fairy, 1 to Fairy, 1 to Fairy. Go to Spike, Spike, Spike. Try like that. So the thought is, do they have a Force of Negation that can't hit Whirza? Yeah, I think we do that. Before they have Counter or Cryptic mana up, let's just try to get Whirza down. See what happens. Because if they're holding up Force of Negation or Spell Snare, Then we get it in. Okay. Gets a Hallowed Fountain. Okay, so he's probably just going to path Whirza here. Okay, that is fair. We will make sure to tap our Sword of the Meek. Yes, we would love to use that ability. Get our land in. All right, opponent, let's see what you can do with this. Okay, now Foundry's probably not getting back down, so I think they need to have the board wipe here. Do they have it? Oh, they do. Oh my god. All right, fair enough, opponent. They had the answer. Oh, this just went from winnable to not very close. All right, well, we got to try it. Sitting back and waiting is not going to get it done. And they've got the... Ooh, okay, we're in. Yes, we will pay it. 1, 2, 3. Yes. And we have an opal, which means we are in the clear to start making some Thopters. Okay, that went okay. Let's see if they have the bounce spell. All right, draws and discards. Throw a dig in. Okay, we will discard the sphere. Okay, let's try to close this out. Pass the turn. Delta's not a good draw, but we do get to do the bauble trick. Wow, paths our token. Okay, just trying to stay alive, our opponent is. We will Delta, cast the bauble. We will take a look at what we're working with. Spire of Industry, do not need. So we will go get a snow-covered island. Pass the turn. See what we get off the bauble. More lands. All right. They've got to have some kind of answer by now. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 8 damage. So we are getting in for 8 next turn. If we... Okay. Digging. So you'll see in this matchup that the Whirza player getting down the Foundry is the most crucial part of the entire game. All right. Good game. If the Whirza player can't ever resolve a Foundry, even if he gets like an Whirza down, it is very difficult. So Thopter Foundry really needs to be the blue-white player's #1 priority here. That's why I think the game turned when they chose to counter our Pithing Needle instead of just holding up whatever they had and just waiting for us to commit to a Foundry. All right, well, Damping Sphere down. Trophies definitely in for their Stonies and Rest in Pieces. Tezzeret's in. Ashiok is borderline. We do want Tireless Trackers. Any kind of discard is where we want to be. So we'll get rid of some opals. We do want a Dirtle, so keep the stars in. We'll get rid of a Pyrite Spellbomb. Nihil Spellbomb is very borderline also, but I don't think it makes the cut. Bridge is not very good. They'll eventually get to the Cryptic they need. Or Teferi or something if they absolutely need to start swinging. We do want the Aether Grid. It is a must-deal threat for them. Welding Jar does nothing, as they are bounce-oriented. And we'll go down 1 Galvanic Blast. We want all the cantrips still in, all the dirtily stuff. Okay, so that went remarkably well, aside from one horrible punt on our part. Just the worst. One of these days I'll remember these static abilities on these Planeswalkers. One of these days. Today's probably not that day. Today's definitely not the day. Alright, so 1 punt from each side there, and it definitely was more egregious on their part, thankfully. This actually, whew, I would love this hand if there were 2 lands, but we can't, so mulligan it away. Okay. Whir is excellent in this matchup. We are going to just get rid of a Inventor's Fair for now. We are a long way from that mattering, because we are probably going to be cycling this Chromatic Star quickly. Flooded Strand from our opponent. Passes. More lands. Well, we will crack... Get an island, play a star, and pass the turn. In this matchup on the Whirza side, I really don't like going to get the shock lands we need, Cracks Flooded Strand, early, because you don't want to throw them out to a Field of Ruin until you absolutely need them. Pass the turn. Okay, that's not bad. So we're going to bauble. So the question is, do we just hold up this for Whir? And I think we do. So I think, even though I said we were going to try to save this, we're just going to get our Watery Grave and get a Sword of the Meek. Let's see if they force it. Force Negation is good against Sword of the Meek because it gets rid of it completely. Okay, let it go. So next turn we're whirring. And that is right where we want to be. So So we'll pass the turn. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. Hallowed Fountain, untapped. Yep. Field of Ruin, as we discussed. Alright, keeping mana up, which is fine because we're trying to do the same actually. We are just going to hold up for Whir here. I am actually going to crack this now though, because we can already Whir for what we need and we just want to be drawing cards. And if they happen to throw down a Narset next turn, that's trouble. So yeah, we'll see what they got going on. Surgical, okay, that is very good to know about. And that is very annoying. So it's good that we're keeping this artifact around for sure. Well, if that's what they're going to do, yeah, we're going to make them use a Force Negation if they have it. Get down an island. Crack this. No, we're not going to crack yet. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Let's see if they got the Force. They do. Okay, that's fair. It is annoying, but that is the play they had to make at our swamp. All right, fair enough. So it was going to happen regardless. Okay, and Tireless Tracker is great. We can even play it with a Polluted Delta next turn. What did they pitch? They pitched a Teferi. Okay, so we know about the Surgical. Teferi, okay, sure. So what we're going to do is next turn, we are going to crack our star, play the tracker that way, play our Delta, and really be in business. Yeah, so sack for a green. Draws a Thoughtseize, which is really nice. So we're going to stick to the plan, get Tireless Tracker down. Delta. They crack. Sanctuary. All right, they're getting back Force of Negation. Sure. Mystic Sanctuary is a pretty good card. So the question is, do we use the Thoughtseize now and take the Surgical? I think we do. Let's do that. I usually like to hold up the Thoughtseize. Oh, we don't have a black. Okay, no worries there. Not a big deal. Okay, forgot about that. Yep, no problem. I'm actually kind of glad it makes us reevaluate that line of play. I think it's always better to play Thoughtseize as a spell you throw out before you throw down your big whatever you're trying to land. All right, so we know Force Negation in hand. Surgical. Turns the tracker. Okay. Lyra. Okay. That is annoying. Okay. Whir is great. Okay. So what we're doing here is, let's make sure we do this right. So we'll, yeah. Mountain, get down a, yeah, we'll do Thoughtseize. Path is fine. We'll get rid of the Force. I thought they had a Surgical. Where did that go? I don't know where that went. Must have missed something. Maybe that was during the Field of Ruin turn. I think it was. Oh yeah, it was. All right, so we'll take the Force. They're left with a Path, so we're going to throw this out now. 1, 2. Yeah. Get our Whir down. Get our Foundry down. And while we know they just have a Path, we will start the shenanigans. And pass the turn. All right, they got a Path in hand for the tracker, which is fine, but we are going to be drawing a ton of cards off these clues. We love that. Island. We know about Path. So I wonder if they just stay back and block to try to save Teferi. They do. Okay, that's fair. Brutality. Okay, well this saves our tracker, which is nice. So we're going to do it. Do we? Or do we just save it? This is a tricky one. I'm going to do it. It might even hit something that we really want to see. So we're just going to, yeah, duress you. See what they're working with. Okay, uses the Path. Sure. Get a land. Snapcaster. Okay, that is mildly annoying. So I think what we're going to do here is just... The only real target, though, is Force. So if we force them to use it on tracker, that might be where we want to be. Okay, so we're going to keep some Thopters up. And actually, we're just going to do it now in case they draw into something annoying. Actually, we'll make one, and then we'll keep it up to draw a card possibly. So this way, unless they want to lose Teferi, they have to stay back on defense. All right, so in hand is a Snapcaster and an Unknown. Again, I'm not trying to play this breeding pool until I absolutely have to. And if they didn't draw a counterspell here, and we are just live doing Whirza, just winning. Okay, bounces the Thopter, cashes into Fairy, so new card in hand. Yeah, well, we will make one. Now, if they drew a... yeah, if they drew Surgical, we just have to deal with that. Alright, well, we got a block in. Alright, what was the follow-up? It is pretty good. Sure. I wonder if he just takes the clue tokens, maybe? It'd be... Wow, he does. Okay, sure. Alright, we're not going to risk it here. We're not getting in for damage, really, anyway. So no point in risking a... Oh, okay. Well, we will sack to this, then. Yeah. Okay. Not ideal. That was ideal. Yeah, because he can't even... Oh, wow, that was a great draw. Yep. Getting in. Yep, and we're just holding on to this tracker because he's not going to be doing much attacking. So let's do it now while we know. No surgicals we have to worry about. And pass the turn. We are still just hoping for Whirza. That's really what we want here. So I wonder if he's forced to snap Celestial Purge here. I think he is. Okay. Yep. Snapcaster down, Celestial Purge. Does it again. We will get it in the yard instead. Yep. Alright, now he's in race mode. He's... Oh wow, doesn't even attack. Okay. Interesting. Alright, Engineer's great. So if we can get a... Yes, we will. We want a... I think we just want to start drawing a million cards, so we're going to go for a Wellspring. Needle might be better, but I think if we can just outdraw our opponent and get to our combo, that's where we want to be. Now the question is, do we play our tracker now while we can? Yeah, I think if we're going to, now's the time. Yeah, we'll pay. Okay, so we got to survive next turn. If they got a board wipe, we're in trouble. 2 cards in hand. So we're really relying on this Wellspring now. The Engineer is kind of a must-kill for them here. If they don't deal with the Engineer, they're just in... Return a... Okay, so he's going to go for the Detention Sphere kill of the Thopters and try to race. Or is he just going to... If he's smart, he'll go after the Engineer. If he or she, sorry. If our opponent is smart. Okay, he does. That was a big deal for them. Okay. Yep. He needed to have that. Come on, we just need Whirza. We have not seen an Whirza in a long time. Okay, so what's our... What are we most afraid of? I think I'm just going to name Jace and pass the turn. This Lyra was a good sideboard card for them for sure. Did not expect that. Okay, 2 cards in hand. Still not good. Alright, Astrolabe gets a redraw. Counters the Astrolabe. Alright, this is where we don't want to be because now they're just drawing a million cards. Down to 1 card in hand though. 2 cards. Another Engineer is good, so we will do that. Alright. Opponent's getting all the counter spells. 1 card in hand. I'm really not sure why our opponent isn't attacking every turn here. Yeah, there you go. It's not like we're attacking anything relevant and you're gaining a million life. Alright, 2 cards in hand, not where we want to be. Try the Astrolabe again. We have not seen an Whirza in a very long time. We will crack this. Bauble is fine. Crack Scalding Tarn. Get a snow-covered island. We will crack. Ooh, okay. That is very good. Well, let's get in. Meant to keep 1 guy back, but that's okay. And then we are going to crack Bauble on them. So we're drawing on their turn. Flooded Strand is good. Okay. Now, if we can blow up this Detention Sphere, we are in business. Flooded Strand down. 2 unknowns. Getting in. Yeah. Passes the turn. We will try it. Oh, if we get this engineer, come on, baby. Okay, he did have the counter. Okay, 1 card in hand. Another bauble. Well, we get some redraws here. Scalding Tarn is great. We will crack that. We will crack this. Get a Steam Vents. No. Investigate. 1, 2. Tezzeret is fantastic. Okay, that's what we want to see. So we will bauble. Look at our opponent. We see a Ceremony's Rejection, which is fine. We will get in with the Tracker and the Thopter. Gets in Plains. Okay, we pass the turn. Next turn's a big one. Next turn is a big one. Ooh, there we go. Okay, now we're in super business. We do got to close out the game. 6 minutes left. Opponent gets in, sure. So what's more important here, Tez or Aether Grid? I think it's actually Aether Grid, as weird as that sounds. Okay, paths we do not have any more lands. Okay, now we need this to be Tez, so let's, yeah, now we're going to, let's do it the right way. Aether Grid. Actually, we don't need to do that yet. Get into combat. All right, let's pray. I think this might just be a rejection in hand. Thopter Foundry is great. Black and a blue. Blue. Okay, he had a Spell Snare. Okay, no cards in hand. With Tez on board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. He'll gain 5 here, so not there yet. Yep, getting in. We'll block Lyra. We'll ping Snapcaster. Pass the turn. Chromatic Star. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14 plus 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 14. And then ping 15, 16, 17. Not there yet. Okay. Then we're just going to... Actually, if we swing with a 5-5, then yeah, then we do it. No, never mind. We're going to do this the right way. Look at the top 5. Yep, we're doing it this way. Thopter Foundry. Now we're definitely there. Blue-black. We did it. That was a beautiful game. A lot of back and forth. That's how we want to do it against blue-white. Really good game from our opponent. We just had the Tireless Tracker was an all-star there. Drew a ton of cards off him, and we just outgrinded blue-white. That was beautiful. Okay, so let's talk game plan for blue-white control in this matchup. Here's my list for the most important threats from Whirza we need to prioritize. Thopter Foundry, Teferi Time Reveler, Whirza, and Goblin Engineer are the primary threats. And secondarily, Whirva Invention, Psymaster Thopterus, and Tezzeret Agent of Bolas. Now, I cannot stress enough just how important it is to keep up an answer for Thopter Foundry. Even without the combo, I'm always surprised at just how problematic 2 or 3 Thopters can actually be just from sacrificing a few rocks. The Whirza player is dying for us to tap out to get a window to get one into play. Save your Force Negations for this, not the sword. If we can prevent a Thopter Foundry from sticking, the Whirza game plan becomes much more difficult. Even a resolved Whirza without a Foundry isn't as scary as it seems. Now, Little Teferi is obviously a major issue for us, but thankfully that's a meta call, and the green splash is much more prevalent. But be aware, if they are unlucky or foolish enough to drop a Hallowed Fountain before the turn they actually play Teferi, this will give away the splash they're on, so make sure you keep up a counter for them. And Whirza is just an obscene card, no real explanation here. But the Goblin Engineer is their secret all-star in this game. A good Whirza player will know that they can steal games against Blue just by outgrinding and drawing more cards. Once the Foundries are dealt with, they will be eager to get an Engineer to stick, because without a Foundry, they must get back ahead on cards. Secondary threats to watch out for include Whirva Invention, as it's their only instant speed way of getting a Foundry into play. Psymaster Thopterus thankfully doesn't see much play anymore, but don't be surprised to see him, he is a problem. And Tezzeret is an alternate finisher who is frightening in his own right. But that is never more than a 2 out of the board, just something to be aware of. Now, how do we sideboard in this matchup? First of all, if you have a super spicy sideboard card that isn't at the top of these lists, it's only your fault if you don't play it. I am a huge advocate for playing bombs out of the board that are super specific if you know your meta really well. But for large event, the traditional boards, here's my guide. Let's start with the bombs. Stony Silence and Rest in Peace. both cut off the combo, and Stony does even more work than that. Both versions of Four Color Whirza have spot removal spells in their sideboard just for these cards. Make them draw it. They can win through these with Whirza Beats, Tezzerets, and Grids, but nothing ruins their day worse than these two cards. Always bring these in. Surgical Extractions are great. Hitting a Foundry is very backbreaking, but they can also snipe the sword if they choose to engineer it into the bin early. This also plays very nicely with Snapcaster. Disdainful Stroke hits their finishers, Whirza, Whir, and Tezzeret. Dovin's Veto is just another good counter for Foundry and for other things that they may have. Ashiok is a big problem for them, and I've always been impressed when it hits the battlefield. They run 8 or more fetches, and it ruins Goblin Engineers and Whirv Inventions. Okay, now for secondary stuff. These appear in a lot of lists, so it's your call if you want them in. Celestial Purge might be my most controversial one here. This may surprise some people as only being secondary since it hits a lot of things like Foundry, Engineer, and Tez out of the side. However, a lot of blue-white players I really respect have told me it's not that it's bad, it's just the more sideboard cards you bring in, the further we get away from our game plan. So this is just a case of too many other good sideboard cards above it, but I have no problem at all if you want to bring it in. Ceremonious Rejection I'm not as big a fan of. Not hitting Foundry is huge here. I personally don't like it as there aren't all that many targets, but it is nice to have further Pithing Needles and maybe a gotcha on a turn 1 Astrolabe that they were relying on. Not my favorite though. Monastery Mentor is great. A turn 2 Rest in Peace or a Stony Silence followed by this is legit big game. He ends the game very quickly while they just search for their answers. And Disenchant is just solid overall removal. So what are we taking out? First, take out whatever extra spot removal you may have for creatures, Dismembers, Oust, Winds of Abandon, and we're also going to go down a number of Path to Exiles. 4 is just too many, but we do need to have some as an answer to Whirza and Engineers. Also, Tireless Trackers see more play. I wouldn't suggest cutting more than 2 though. Cut all but 1 board wipe. You do kind of have to keep 1 back just in case things get out of control. They land an Whirza and a big construct that you just can't deal with otherwise. Keep 1 in, but you don't want too many. And then the counter spells that don't line up well. These games often go very long, so Mana Leak is often a good consideration to be cut. Now, if you're on the Stoneblade variety of the deck, I'd highly recommend just cutting the entire Stoneforge Mystic package post-board. Sadly, this is just one matchup that they are horribly bad in. From the Whirza side, if they see a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, they are thrilled. Try to transform into a blue-white control build as much as possible. So, what are the biggest threats on the blue-white side from a Whirza player's perspective? The primary threats here, number 1, untapped mana. I know, not technically a card, but it's what it represents. The nightmare scenario for a Whirza player is just staring down untapped mana every turn, trying to figure out how and when they can land a threat. Jace the Mind Sculptor, as far as real threats go, it's the big guy. I don't know if I've ever seen the Whirza side win a game where Jace gets 2 or more Brainstorm activations. Narset Parter of Veils is also surprisingly effective. She digs for exactly the counterspells and removal we need, and it makes their Astrolabes very dead. She also comes with Gyreek Sanitarium very nicely. And then Stony Silence and Rest in Peace, these are just the sideboard bombs. Secondarily, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, big Teferi, amazing card that will win the game, but just not quite as scary as the others are to a Whirza player. Not a knock on Teferi, just saying how much better the other cards are. Celestial Colonnade still does its thing as the game goes on long enough, still needs to be accounted for. I'll note that I didn't even include Stoneforge or Batterskull here. While it technically is a threat, it's more of a relief than anything to see this from a Whirza player's perspective. It truly is that ineffective in the matchup. So, what do we bring in to combat the blue-white menace from the Whirza side? First, the discard spells do a ton of work. Thought Seizes and Collective Brutality are the most played, but whatever you got, bring them in. Depending on the scenario, it can be right to use them right away, but they can also be great later in the game if you hold them prior to casting an important spell. Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus, is another must-answer threat where he gets you back ahead in the battle with card advantage and eventually wins the game by himself. Assassin's Trophies, Nature's Claims, Wear Tears, Disenchants, whatever your colors are, whatever your spot removal it is, they need to be able to hit Stony Silences and Rest in Pieces. Trophies are just amazing in general as they also hit every other possible threat blue-white wants to stick. Tireless Tracker for the green is another way to get up on cards and yet another threat blue-white has to account for. Basically, any way we have to get up on cards or get them down on cards is where we want to be. Secondarily, Monastery Mentor can be a great surprise win as they tend to cut removal spells. Now, I've seen Grafdigger's Cages and Tormod's Crypts be effective, but as a blue-white player, shutting off a single, albeit powerful card in Snapcaster is not particularly scary to us. So I'm not a fan of using Grafdigger Cages or Tormod's Crypts here. I put Fatal Push on here, but I would actually recommend staying away from this. I wanted to bring it up because there's an argument for keeping it in and against Stoneblade decks and for Celestial Colonnades, and if you think they'll bring in Monastery Mentors, maybe it really could be useful. But even then, there's a chance they just board the Stoneforges out, and usually if they're at the point in the game where they are swinging with Colonnade, they have ample protection to back it up. Yes, we need spot answers to the power enchantments, but we'd rather have cards that advance our game plan than have more situational answers to less scary threats. So I am firmly in the anti-fatal push camp. So what are we taking out for these sideboard cards? First, cut the opals. No need to get off to a fast start here at all, and even our most busted starts with opals are thwarted by a single counterspell. Plus, they are miserable late game draws. Also, as a side note with Mox Opal, when boarding in against any other matchup also, always be aware of how many artifacts you're running post sideboard. If you go below 20-ish, you risk this just being a dead card for a lot of the game. We're also taking out Ensnaring Bridges, as once they get to the point of the game where they need to attack, they'll just bounce it, or more likely they'll just never need to attack. Welding Jar does nothing, as all of the removal is bounce based. Damping Sphere also does nothing useful, same with Pyrite Spellbomb. And usually a Galvanic Blast gets cut, but I'd keep one at least. They can be surprisingly useful against a down-tick Planeswalker. Nihil Spellbomb is often fine since it cycles at worst and cuts off a Snappy at best, but often it just doesn't make the cut. No issue here though if you keep it. One of the more interesting lines in this match revolves around the Whirza player trying to land a Goblin Engineer on turn 2, while the blue-white player has a Path to Exile in hand. The main problem for the blue-white player is that pathing the Engineer early means ramping the Whirza player to 4 lands on turn 3, which is not a position the blue-white player wants to be up against. But is there a scenario where you should path the turn 2 Engineer? I believe the answer is yes, but it all depends on what the Whirza player chooses to put in the yard. In most matchups, the Whirza player is going to try to get a combo piece in the yard with the Engineer. However, a savvy Whirza player, seeing he is playing a blue-white variant, has a different option. If they choose an Ichor Wellspring to put in the yard on turn 2 instead, this is actually even scarier for the blue-white player. The vast majority of the games in this matchup go very long. If the Whirza player can draw an extra card or two every turn cycle by swapping Astrolabes for Wellsprings and vice versa, the blue-white player will never be able to keep up and will be buried in card advantage. So, the decision to path on turn 2 should be based on what goes to the yard. Option 1, Sword of the Meek. Rejoice here, blue-white players. No need to path and ramp. This is the best possible outcome, but we still need to be aware that this is probably going to be the Thopter combo coming soon. You must still deal with the Thopter Foundry. Option 2 is Ichor Wellspring. This one hurts. I think if that goes to the yard, you have to path here before they get it back out, and unfortunately you will ramp it. Option number 3 is putting a Thopter Foundry in the yard. Now this is a tricky one. If you don't also have Graveyard Hate in hand with the path, then it might be worth it to path them so the Foundry stays buried. The Whirza player may be playing some mind games here and have another Foundry in hand just to bait the path out. Not any real clear-cut solution here, so go with your gut and just keep these situations in mind. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I hold both of these decks very near and dear to my heart, and I love the amount of variation for each and how they are so adaptable to different metas. Now, liking this video and subscribing are a huge help to me, and please spread the word if you liked it. I have a deep love for this game and the modern format. If I can help just a few people out with either side of this pretty tricky matchup, that's my goal. Alright, now as a thank you for watching my first video, as promised, here's how you can be one of the 4 winners to get a free 2019 Commander Precon. Oh, these guys, yeah. First, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Second, follow me on Twitter at SnapMulligan. And third, send a tweet tagging both me so I see it and one fellow Twitter follower who might appreciate the video. Doesn't have to be a glowing review or anything, or maybe it's just the opposite. You know, hey, look at this Jamoke thinking he knows Modern. I will take that. This is my way to get the word out, good or bad, and in return, as a thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the first few viewers, this is how I do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.